Hello and welcome to yet another cast. For you today I have a custom 44 played on Seton's Clutch. We have, in typical Seton's Clutch fashion, Team 1 up at the top, Team 2 down at the bottom, and let's introduce the players. Let's start with the air player of the northern team. In dark blue and opening first land as Cybran we have Helicase. Then to the west of that, on the beach slot, going white and opening first land as a UEF we have XXXXX or something like that. I'm just gonna refer to them as X. And then to the south of that in Cyan and also going Cybran opening first land, on the front slot we have Syndicalist. And to the east of that on the rock slot in Piss Yellow and opening first air we have Turbina going UEF. So for the northern team, 2 Cybran, 2 UEF. Now for the southern team, on the air slot, in the back, in Burgundy Red, and opening first land as a Aeon, we have Nick. Then on the beach slot to the east, in green, and opening first land as well, going Cybran, we have Nightshade. To the north of that, on the front slot, in hot pink, going UEF and opening first land, we have Battlemoose already moving towards the middle, into the battle. And last but not least, on the southern rock slot, to the west of that, in the normal pink, going Seraphim and opening first land, we have Nemio. Now, not much to be said about Seton's Clutch. Most of you will probably already know what's up with this. Oops, wrong button. Yeah, no, I wanted to press that. Bunch of reclaim in the middle. The front players do just move up to that with their ACUs, try to get as much of that as possible. Usually the beach players come into support, and that is what X is doing. However, big difference from the usual stuff, or from what you would usually see, Nightshade is not doing the same. Meaning that Battlemoose will have to be careful sitting at a 1v2 situation in the front, right from the get-go. And that is not too great for them, but they will most likely be able to manage. Now, other stuff to expect from Seton's. Air players usually don't go for T1 or T2 air, at least not at the start, and instead go right for the T3 air build, getting an early T3 factory and, yes, giving the T1 and T2 air roll to their teammates. On Seton's, everyone has to deal a bit with air. Air is a bit of a collective duty. At least in the T1 and T2 stage. Then the other important thing, rock player gets a bunch of reclaim right here. That is usually used to eco up faster and have an easier time crushing their opponent on the beach. Though with the mage player working towards the middle, they usually get a bunch of the mid reclaim, meaning that they can eco up a bit as well. The other thing to note about the rock player, they usually get an early transport out, grabbing this side island, and getting these 5 additional maxes right here, which does give them an eco advantage. And we see that transport out for Nemir. We, however, don't see that transport out for Turbina yet. And that is very surprising. You usually see that out at around 3 minutes at this skill level. Something that I don't get, that I have to admit I don't manage that quite that early. Takes for me a minute or so longer, so around this time usually, but even then, I'm a lot lower rated than any of these players in this lobby, so not too surprising. And I just noticed, interesting, Nemir didn't actually drop any entries off, they just dropped off a bunch of Suis. Maybe they wanted to make sure that they can safely grab the island. They're also dropping off a bunch of extra Suis. Not too sure why. Maybe they want to do a drop after they finish that. Not sure, maybe Turbina isn't that much of a Seton's player and not aware that they should drop beside island. I don't know what's going on there, but not dropping that island seems like a big fail, and that will definitely set them back to, compared to the Southern team, quite a bit. That is not something that you would love to see, however, on the other hand, Nightshade isn't moving towards the middle, so they aren't getting any of the mid reclaim, meaning that they won't be able to eco quite as fast. In the end, I guess it somewhat balances out, with the rock player having less of an eco cap or low eco cap, and Nightshade is being slower on the eco due to not having any of the mid reclaim. Now, some fighting going on in the middle. Did not really go over that too much, but battle moves already into the yellow. Considering that they are at a 2v1 situation, that is not too surprising right there. And they are forced to pull back for now. Let's see who got the majority of the mid reclaim. The mid reclaim actually pretty close, or the reclaim numbers pretty close for both teams, so I guess it was split basically evenly, though slightly more for the northern team, which most likely once again comes down to their higher amount of ACOs in the middle. But reclaim numbers still very close, so not too big of a difference right there. It's going to be pretty even, I suspect. Now, drop for the side island did actually finally come out for Turbina at around 6 minutes, which is very late for Setons. And though looking at this, there's also been some delay on the for Nemir, who hasn't grabbed the maxes yet. I guess both rock players may be a bit distracted or focusing on other stuff. Not grabbing the maxes quite that fast. Now, Nightshade going for an early submarine. I suspect trying to force a naval lock, which would be very nice for them, since that way, yes, they are going for a quick T2 upgrade, and with that, I guess if they get that naval lock off, then they can get early T2 and just be a nuisance to the enemy front player. Sorry about my stuttering that I currently have going on. I don't know what it is today. This is recorded right after the last cast. I guess I'm just struggling with that a bit more today. Now, something that I still want to point out, this is going to be a longer one, again, just like the last one, so if you haven't already, you should probably also have seen that on the video length already. Maybe get yourself something to drink or something like that. Staying hydrated and stuff like that is very important. And we're going to stay here for a long time. Interesting to see right here, a drop has been built up by Turbina, and that seems to be going somewhere on the southern side, though not too sure. There was something queued up here for a moment, though it seems to be going right here. And if that successfully does land, that will probably set Nightshade back quite a bit. There's a bunch of T1A right here, but that's not going to make any difference and won't prevent those couriers from dropping their payload. The Lobos do drop, and they take out a bunch of energies. And this max that is, I thought, done on its T2 upgrade will go down. And the energies, the Lobos just run to this area now, or this general area, and I guess will be a bit of a pain right here. Nothing of the sorts done up here to the to X. And interestingly enough, X actually also going for a sort of naval lock build. and actually surfacing the submarines so that they can use the deck gun against the engineers, since the problem with submarines against the Aeon and Seraphim engineers is that those are hover, thus cannot be hit by torpedoes. So the only way for submarine to damage those is by surfacing and utilizing its deck gun, which a lot of players tend to forget exists. It's also not very impressive, but if you're unthreatened from the air as a submarine or any surface attack stuff, it is a bunch of additional DPS that you can utilize. And it's also pretty, and it's your only way to deal with any hover shit by using submarines. As submarines, unsurprisingly, not very good at dealing with hover. But there is already a torp launcher and a factory out on the silent island for Nemir, so they will be able to just put some stuff up there. However, the naval look in the South Navy seems to be continuing to be very effective, and a bunch more drops prepared by Turbina. Last one didn't seem to get too much done. Those mechs right here don't seem to be damaged at all. So only taking out one max, that's not actually too much. Though it did force a land factory build and some Mantis out. But, well, that's not too bad actually. This lobe is still alive, but it's just being reclaimed now by these entries. Right, never mind, there were two mechs that went down, and since this one was kept, I guess that was already at T2. Yeah, that's actually a bit painful. That is, I have to admit that. Now on the front, Mu is actually doing quite well, even though they had that early 1v2 situation. They completely pushed past the middle and have even now denied these two mechs right here. Currently pulling back a bit because I guess they took quite a bit of damage, though they have nano, meaning that that commander is quite juicy, quite tanky. And currently no gun upgrades onto on the ACUs of both Syndicalist and X. Nick points out that there is no radar, and he is completely correct in that. There is no radar. Ah, right, there was a radar down there, and the drop that I pointed out a bit earlier did happen. This time it's not actually a lower drop, but just a mass Magmarine drop, which took out the Hydro, the radar, a max, 82 max by the looks of it. Well, correction, 2 T2 maxes. And might even take out some P-gens or this air factory. Well, never mind. It will, however, cause some issues for Nick, who will now lose some energies to the Spec Marines. This one actually surviving, being able to reclaim that on 1 HP. Let's see, will this T2 max go down? All of these Mech Marines vetted. One actually had 3 banks of veterancy. Never mind, 4, with 260 mass skills, which isn't a lot because Mech Marines are dirt cheap. But the Spectre comes in and that just completely wiped those out in one salvo because Spectre has AoE. The Spectre damage. Meaning that those Mech Marines grouped up on that position weren't able to do anything. Now, game is slowing down a bit. Nick requests that frigates are spread out for intel, and I guess that's a good call. Also, cruiser out, that will provide a big radar ring, as cruisers are the T2 intel ships. Look at that big ring of radar that you get. And also pretty big sonar ring. Though Cyber frigates sadly don't have that much of TMD range because, well, their TMD got reworked to missile reflects. To the thing that you have on the Loyalists as well. Redirecting missiles, which does sound nice and all, but big problem with that is when you are facing missiles on Navy, it's usually cruiser missiles. And guess what cruisers have? TMD. So it's basically useless. Unless you're dealing with anything with missiles that come from land, which you don't do that often. And with the reduced range, I'd say that that change that the Ballsy made is probably just a massive nerf to the Cyclone cruisers. Since their TMD with that is really, really bad. They can no longer cover a large area. But bunch of T2 out from Syndicalist does force Bottomless back in the middle. Though they have still claimed some of the maxes that usually would go to Syndicalist in this slot. In this slot configuration. Like this one right here. And I think they might even... No, okay, no, that's just a reclaim order. I was about to say they might even be trying to get this one. Though they are reclaiming into that direction. But this max goes down, not too surprising. But it was only T1 and T1 maxes basically pay off immediately. They don't take any time to pay off. Well, they take some time, but it's just a few seconds. Because they are that dirt cheap. A bunch of solicits. Out for Nemios, so they are going for a heavy submarine build. That will most likely work out quite well early on, since there's currently no T2 Navy with any destroyers or torpedo boats out. Meaning that those submarines will be very, very good at dealing with any opposing stuff, and I think they have numbers in terms of submarines, meaning that they will beat the Tiger Sharks of their opponent, the Tiger Sharks of X. At least if they use their solicits correctly and keep them a bit back. Let's see how bottom navy is looking. Right, bunch of ships just spread around. I guess to provide as much intel coverage as possible. By looks of it, Turbina actually did end up getting back into the navy. Though they are behind their opponent, who does have T2. And some destroyers already out. Nightshade should probably try and capitalize on that. Just trying to crush Turbina again. While they have the chance. Maybe even try to get a early T3 upgrade. And get some battleships early into this bay area to bombard both bases. Like, just wipe that and that. It could be massive. But currently not too much going on, just some slow stuff. Of course, at 18 minutes, T3 long achieved by both air players. That's not too surprising. The standard for air on Saturn's being around 9 minutes. And slight naval skirmish going out in the bottom navy between, well, the bottom navy players, who would have guessed. And unsurprisingly, that is going in favor of Nightshade, who does have that T2 navy firing into that. Which will just slowly chunk away at those Thunderhead frigates. Let's take a look at economy. Team 1 actually ahead a bit by around 100 mass, so not only a bit to be fair, but quite a bit. Quite a lot. But not much happening right now. This stuff currently just Navy tangling and bunch of frigates just getting wiped by a bunch of destroyers and cruisers. And the Cyprian cruiser being a very good direct fire unit, which is sort of expected since it doesn't get any missiles. And as already pointed out a bit earlier, the TMD on it is also really mediocre since that got changed to the missile redirect, since you just don't have any range on that. But a bunch of top bombers come out from Turbina and take out the T2 Navy for a Nightshade, making this a bit more equal. Well, okay, not all of the T2 Navy, there is still one destroyer left. But it did make this entire engagement a bit more equal. And now the ASF for Nick do come in and try and take out the top bombers. ASF responds out for Helicase, I think. Let's take a short ASF count. 58 for Helicase. 46 out for Nick, so Helicase actually ahead on air. However, all the top bombers for Turbina do end up going down, and Nick now being chased down by the ASF of Helicase. And making an unfortunate turn, meaning that those are able to catch up and can just fire from into the back of those, getting a whole bunch of air kills for free. God, that's painful to watch. It's really painful to watch. But yeah, Nick losing a bunch of ASF to that. Asking if Cyprian ASF are faster, fun fact, I actually checked after seeing that in the replay. No, they are not. They are not. Who would have guessed they aren't? Would be really weird if they were. I suspect it was really just down to due to Nick adjusting the angle the ASF were flying from that way to that way, which meant that they slowed down for just the slightest bit, and also made it easier for those just to properly get behind them with that adjustment. And that's probably what actually happened there. Except, of course, the balance team made a big extended mistake, and the Cyprian ASF are actually faster and the unit database is wrong. But I find that unlikely. Now, another naval engagement going on here between Nightshade and Turbina. Bunch of top bombers being utilized once again. Also some out of from Helicase now. But just the sheer amount of AA from the T1 Navy is enough to take quite a few of those top bombers down. Though it would be nice to see a bunch more cruisers in the area due to the heavy use of top bombers. Now, T3 Navy has finished for Turbina. They completely skipped the T2 stage, which, well, okay, to be fair, the UEF destroyer isn't that great, but the shield bolts are really useful and really important for the UEF unit composition on the Navy. So I would have expected that some of that is to be utilized. But they are now going for some top bombers. Let's see how it's looking down here. Tier 3 just 21% or 20% done for Nightshades, so they actually do end up being behind on the naval tech. And currently also only Tier 2 Navy coming out of from Battlemoors on this side. Syndicalists did also hop into the southern pond with some Tier 2 Navy already. So that is interesting to see as well. And Destroy on land, yes, there are some Salems being used with their ability to walk, just sprouting those 6 legs and moving onto the land. The annoying part of that is that Salems have the range of a naval unit, meaning that they can just outrange Triads. Or, well, general tier 2 PD. And also have a pretty decent fire and stuff like that. X finishes a Atlantis. That's gonna be a big pain for Nimia to deal with, who is currently still stuck at T2 Navy by the looks of it. Tier 3 is queued up, but not yet there. And let's see, is any Tier 3 Navy out for X? No. And they went Tier 3 Navy or Tier 3 tech on air and bit the Atlantis with that. Atlantis very powerful, big vision range, and some very high range torpedoes, which are pretty decent. Also, if surfaced, amazing AA, and also some crate build power. Basically, a combination of trace of an aircraft carrier and of a submarine. And especially just with T2 Navy, it's really hard to counter my experience. If you get T3 Navy and battleships, you can just counter it with your battleships because, well, battleship AoE. But at T2 it's a real pain. What I completely missed is that apparently X managed to get a bunch of Navy into this bay area right here. And that is doing quite a bit of damage, taking out Max right here. And also the Navy production that was based right there. This position threatening the main base of Nemir, including this T3 Max right here. I always forget that the rock slot is actually that the rock player is that close to the cliff on their on their core base. I always forget that that is this close. But this T3 Max does actually end up surviving, and there are a bunch of destroyers coming in from Nick, which are being utilized to some great effect, I guess. And with that, that run by does, or, well, I'm not sure if you can call it a run by if it happens on Navy. But that naval situation does resolve. Let's take a short look at the air player's air grids. Well, a bit of an air grid out for Helicase, nothing too surprising right there. Yeah, Nick also secondary air grid started. And I don't know, maybe you could call this a tertiary air grid, not too sure. But around what I would expect at this stage. 26 minutes. A bunch of Salems firing right here. Turbina is still not using that much T2 Navy. Does have a bunch of battlecruisers out now, which are just going to completely wreck any T2. And, well, never mind, they were gifted over some T2 Navy out from Syndicalist, some Salems. And they are now also at least going for some bulwarks. Those nasty UEF sheet boats. And some cruisers, okay. Okay, they are going for T2 Navy as well. Nice to see. Small gunship raid attempted by Nick right here, and well, there is a bunch of mobile A in the area that is just taking those out. Something that a lot of players just tend to do is also just build a bunch of mobile A on the side island, in addition to NGs, and just have that patrol around or move around, making it so that drops or gunships can't really do anything on the area. because they all just get shot down. And bunch of missiles coming in from up here, but those are retargeting onto the firebase, though I think the amount of TMD there is actually not sufficient to shoot those down. UAF missiles taking 2 shots to be taken down, but they still do manage to pull that off. So nothing going on there. ASF numbers do look like Helicase is currently winning the air game. Both air players basically on the same on par when it comes to eco, but let's count the ASF. We are looking at 215 for Nick and 245 for Helicase, so it's not that much, and some good air turns can definitely make a big difference. The other thing, Nick also has a bunch of restorers, and those will make up the ASF numbers, I guess. Though the big advantage that Helicase has right here is that they technically have access to stealth on their ASF, though they are currently not using that, as we can see by all the red crossed out signs. By all the red symbols above the ASF. And though air engagement is now about to start, going after the restorers, and that goes. And by the looks of it, well, it's hard to tell. There are a bunch of cruisers out for green or for Nightshade supporting, but it looks like Helicase might actually be winning this. Never mind. Maybe not. No, I think Helicase is actually losing this. Never mind. Their ASF were more spread out, so I guess it just looked like more. But no, they do actually lose this, so this effort does go for Nick. However, air grids producing quickly means that Helicase already has a not insignificant amount of ASF already back up. And we now see some SAMs just coming up right in the water, denying any use of air. Now at this point I would love to see some air staging coming out from Nick, as one important thing that you can do with air staging is that it will just quickly regenerate the health on your ASF. And if you look at some of those, a lot of those are heavily damaged, some already in the red and stuff like that. With air staging you basically just regen that very quickly, and that leads to the HP pool being basically being full for the next air fight, meaning that the survivability of your ASF increases with each consecutive air fight effectively. Also due to veterancy, and you just get better performance out of them. But tech snipe on the ASU of Battle Moose out from Syndicalist right here. And that's painful. With that, the Southern team loses their first player at 31 minutes. Very painful to see. But yeah, with the thing that's just pointed out with air staging, currently the ASF of Helicase will actually be, on average, doing better than the ones of Nick, since a lot of the ASF from Nick are already pre-damaged from the last air fight, and thus they don't have as much HP and will die quicker to the ASF of Helicase, making those numbers vanish a lot faster. And the other thing, air station costs like 100 or 200 per air staging facility. It's still cheap. There's no reason to not go for it, especially if you have T3 air. I mean, if you look at those incomes, Nick is making over 600 mass per second right now. He can definitely afford to get some air staging up. but currently using a shit ton of drop bombers and gunships to help out the Navy. Also to kill off the Atlantis, I guess, which has built a lot of air units and is now surfacing, pulling out its SAM launchers right here on the sides. And not actually getting out its aircraft, but opening its launch decks. And of course the mounts for the SAMs, as I already pointed out. I think I already pointed out that the Atlantis also has some really damn good AA. As you would expect from an aircraft carrier. Now, more attack missiles coming in, and what are those going? Right, there is a fat under construction from Nick. They may have been going after that. And there are also a whole bunch of Salems now on land, slowly creeping forward. Problematic part with Salems is that they are very tanky. 6.5k HP. Which isn't that extreme, that's comparable to... that's a bit less than Bricks if I remember correctly, but... they also have some immense range and some pretty good DPS. And they have their own AA mounts, even if they are really shit. So the Salems still do... still quite annoying when used on land, because they are basically a tier 3 unit. A very long range tier 3 unit. Bunch of missiles nearly got through, but your shield is still enough to block that off. And more TMD now still being built up. And battleships in the Southern Navy are now being built. And those will just completely counter the battlecruisers, since battleships just outrange those significantly. And would love to see some battleships now coming out for what's the name? For Turbina. Sorry, yeah. God, I think I'm already a bit half-brained, but by the looks of it, that's exactly what they're doing, already going for some summits. Which do outrange the Galaxy-class battleships that the Cypher get by quite a bit. The Summit having the same range as the experimental battleship of the Aeon, the Tempest, making it really damn powerful, but there are also summits coming out for Nick in the pond, so nothing too impressive there. Up here, a bunch of Hearthroom Seraph battleships also coming out. There are, however, also a bunch of battleships out for X, which, as already pointed out, have the highest range of any battleship, sharing that spot with the experimental battleship of the Aeon. And thus they can just outrange the Seraphim battleships. However, with the existence of that, something that X will have to contest with is that Atlantis can now just be ground fired and killed. And Nemia seems to have really ecoed poorly on the side island. That's still mostly... there are 3 T2 Maxes up here, nearly. But this one is about to finish upgrading. With that will be 3. It's really poor ecoing on that side island. I would expect those to be at least T2 capped Maxes already. But maybe those got shot down or killed off by some stuff, I don't know. Didn't pay too much attention to that. I'm very sorry about that. Maybe being utilized down here. And the exact issue with the Cyclone Cruisers that I pointed out earlier, that with the rework of their TMD they just have horrible range, and it was a change, it was a complete change of how it worked, but I'd consider it a big nerf. Since they are basically completely useless against Cypher and Seraphim Cruisers now. Not UEF and Seraphim Cruisers, I mean. With those missiles. Unless you build really a lot of them. And you need to rely on stuff like battleships for actual TMD now. Now, air engagement? Not air. God. Yeah, I think that's gonna be the last cast I do today. Naval engagement in the north between the forces of Namir and X. By the looks of it, well, it is going... could still be going either way. The battleships on both sides pouring in a lot of fire into the opposing side, of course. The front line of those battleships, however, already a lot more damaged for Namir, and they just lost one. So I think in the end X will actually win this naval engage. And though there is a bunch of destroyers and death cells moving in, I think those may be intended to to kill off this Atlantis. Okay, one summit does go down. The Atlantis is actually down into the red. Honestly, I think targeting down the summit that's directly above the Atlantis would be really good now, because with that I'm pretty sure you would damage both the Atlantis and the summit. Well, never mind, the Atlantis did move. Though it is surfacing to release its aircraft. 22 of, I suspect, top bombers? Yes. 22 Storks. Just being released into the wild. And those will be completely shredding those Yav cells, unless they do surface, because Yav cells have some really good AA. Believe it or not. Though the flag on the battleships for the Seraphim also not too horrible. Pouring in a bunch of fire, and of course also just the AA on the cruisers. So in total those top bombers will be dealt with rather quickly, but not before the Yav cells do go down. Bunch of antis tried to be used by Namir, but Helicase is on a job with their own air force, just hovering overhead. Though they do take, that does mean that they will take a bunch of damage onto these ASF, bunch of unnecessary damage. Now, important question: do they have air staging? No. They should definitely build air staging. Especially with an air force of that size, it's definitely worth it. And for once, I actually do know that that's not a horrible idea, because I've recently had a chat with the pony over that, and he did agree that air staging, especially with that amount of ASF, is a really good idea. So I can actually be certain that I'm not talking complete nonsense on this one. Small attempt to run through the middle with some Titans, but there's a bunch of PD and also a bunch of cruisers on the shoreline, meaning that those will just die very quickly. Namir pointing out that they have lost, and by the looks of it, they are completely correct. Top bombers now threatening their main naval production. They should probably build some stationary flag or something like that in the area, maybe even some SAMs. Or well, not SAMs, but T3AA. Seraphim doesn't get SAMs, they just get some normal direct fire AA that is as good as SAMs, but well, it's not missile based. The Atlantis, Hawthorne battleships trying to get some damage done, but I expect that just the sheer amount of summons right now makes it really hard. Also Atlantis moving in, that will be another issue, because those torpedoes are annoying and while the current targeting for that doesn't take too much APM, it still will take some, and while the battleships are current firing that, there's nothing they can't fire on other stuff, of course. But currently fire just continuing down onto the battleships, which is probably a good call. Now, the other navy does actually seem to be doing, well, going basically the opposite way. By the looks of it, it currently seems to be in favor of Nightshade, who is slowly advancing and starting to win. And they, well, I'm not too sure where I was going with that, but yeah, they are slowly advancing, they are slowly forcing Turbina back a bit, but that will still take some time. However, there are now also quite a few battleships out from Syndicalists, so that may change very soon, and there are also some cruisers, some destroyers out from Syndicalists that are currently threatening the naval production for Nick and Pond. That's something to watch out for. In the meantime, just complete air control covered by Helicase, who is, however, flying over a bunch of SAMs, meaning that there will be a lot of damage done there. And those are actual SAMs, those are Aeon. So those are missile based. Those Transcendents. Now, a bunch of destroyers for Nick going down to just this massive ASF cloud. Let's take a count. 607. How much are we looking at for Nick? 359. And that's not good. And Nick now completely falling behind on the air game. A Paragon started by Nemir. A brave move, however, looking at the naval situation, probably not the correct one. Bays are going up for Syndicalists, I guess just as a sort of heli defense. Let's see, do we have anything of the sorts, any kind of game ender up for the northern team? Well, we probably see a Paragon's worth of mass fab is currently building up for Helicase. Looking at all of that. Now, big drawback with that, if one of those mass fab goes pop, then all of them will. Because those things are hella explosive. Those are super volatile. So it would probably be better to space them out a bit so that when one of your blocks right here explodes, every other block just chains with that. Because that doesn't seem like the thing you want. Now, front bay is under a lot of threat from both battleships and cruisers. And the rock bay is basically getting completely annihilated by battleship fire. Those summits doing a good job. Let's take a look. What is the range of the how far can the summit reach? Up to this quantum gateway right here on the back. Also technically towards the ACU, but that is just behind the cliff and thus can't be hit. But yes, that is a insane range. That Paragon is actually going up rather quickly. What's the eco for Nemir? 484. Are they currently... do they have a bunch of mass stuff? Yes, they do. Okay, that explains it. Now... big Air Force, or the Air Force for Helicase is still right in the area, so if anything were to happen, that would be right on the spot and basically prevent anything from actually happening. And naval fighting continuing down there. Battle moves, pinging out that there's satellite, and apparently yes. Turbina is going for a satellite, so there we have some standoff technology to, I guess, counter the idea of a game ender right here from Nemi with that Paragon. Any actual plans for a actual game ender started on the northern team? No. I expect that the plan with the Paragon is as soon as that finishes to go for an actual game ender. Most likely Salvation. There's an Alfred out for Nick, so they can, the southern team can see whatever is going on in the northern team. And by the looks of it, Nick does actually have a satellite. Right, yeah, right here in the front base, but looking at the naval situation, that's probably not gonna last too long. That will probably just get killed off by all of these cruisers. And we are the game just popped down to -1 for a moment. We are back to +0, but I think this may be the first replay I have ever casted with actual slowdown in it. Yeah, we're back down to -1. I don't think that in any previous cast we actually went down to a below plus that we actually went below +0. I could be mistaken, but at least I can't remember anything like that happening, so yes, this game even being a struggle for my PC, which isn't too impressive. It's not the highest, it's not the most modern of the most modern. Especially the CPU is already a few generations old, but still. This game being a bit of a challenge for that. Bunch of strats up, a bit up for Helicase, so we might see a strat snipe. I will probably see those. I will probably not see those being used, and probably miss that knowing myself. We have an Atlantis done here in the Southern Navy as well now for Turbiner, though that is surfaced. And so easier to hit by those galaxies. Those Galaxy-class battleships, though. Once again, it's really easy to just ground fire those Atlantis because if you have them scouted, they are really easy to spot. Because T3 sonar and all that. Und a lot of Tier 3 sonar. Is there any Tier 3 sonar on the southbound? Because I can't see any for the southern team. It does not look like it. Another thing that I would definitely recommend going for T3 sonar because it gives you a better overview of what your opponent has, and well, even when playing against Cypher, Cyphers don't always go for the stealth ships. For example, Nightshade currently is not building any stealth ships, meaning that a sonar would just give complete normal vision. And unlike anything else, unlike radar, it also covers your it also shows your submarines. Apparently, for the actual players, it's currently -2 game speed. So a bit worse than for us. Due to battle moves, I guess. Looking at this chat message. And Nick going for a Paragon of his own. And let's see. This one being reclaimed by Nemir, which is a good call because the Paragon for Nick is going to be a lot safer in this spot. And that definitely needs to be a big team effort. Nick currently pulling in 1.3k mass, if I saw that correctly. Never mind, I didn't. Maybe some real fluctuations there, but currently only around 900. Only in quotation marks, because 900 is a lot. Helicase only in the 670s. Is there... Right, they don't have the power to run at least over 100 of their thingies, of their mass fabs. You can see the bottom number is the inactive amount of mass fabricators currently that they just don't have the power to run. Fav now A nice thing that Fab added a while back is that mass fabricators are now automatically just toggled, meaning that when you run out of power, your mass fabricators will stop operating, giving you power back because power stalling is something you don't want to do. And having less mass is preferable to power stalling in most cases. Just noticed a nuke out for Syndicalist, though there is proper assembly coverage for everyone on the southern team. This should be covering the this SMD should be covering the Paragon, just about. And big airfight happening. And this is over the I think there are also SAMs. Yep, there are SAMs out for Nyx, so this will probably be a big advantage for Nyx since he does have some SAMs overhead, or well, not overhead but underneath in the area. Or the drop damage does actually, I think, drop the shield on the Paragon and even kill the shield. Because there's just so much shit falling down. But in the end, Nick does seem to be winning this. A lot of the ASF just sat down there for Helicase and I guess just didn't get any orders properly. There is a nuke out for Nightshade, though that is probably about to go down to the Novax. There were a bunch of strike bombers that were trying to take that out, but those did end up being shot down, and never mind, the nuke does survive, the shield pops back on, so it is safe for now. But let's see, how much reclaim is that? That's 120k worth of ASF just in this general area. Just ASF racks. If you weren't aware of that, that's a lot of ASF racks. I mean, just look at that. It's a complete fucking wasteland right here. Now, a lot of the ASF for Nick damaged, and once again, that's a good reason to go for some air staging. But all I can do from the caster perspective is say what could have been done. And what would have been nice to see, but, well, I can't actually change anything about how this game goes, of course, since it's just a replay. Now, a bunch of top bombers being utilized in Laser 1 Navy to try and deal with the Navy of Nightshade and Nick, as well as that Atlantis, and I already saw, yeah, a bunch of battleships are actually going down for the southern team in this area. Not too great. In total, by the looks of it, Turbina actually pushing back. Something that could probably have been prevented in the early stages of this game with a proper naval lock coming out from Nightshade against Turbina, but well, it's late for that now. Since Turbina did actually manage to re-establish their stuff. A bunch of top bombers from X also now being utilized in the South Navy, and this that battleship actually just goes down to mass top bombers. And those ASF just stationary and taking a lot of flak fire right here. Those bangers having a field day. And with a lot of these ASF already being very heavily pre-damaged, that's gonna be some massive losses right there. Nick just going for mass amounts of T3 factories, both air and land, since he did finish the Paragon. So I guess he just wants all the bit power in the world. Also, it would of course allow him to just stomp his opponents on land, because infinite resources, and if you get infinite build power with that infinite resource, you basically can just pump out infinite units. Well, not literally infinite, but very close to infinite. Mass production, give it over to teammates, something you usually see when players finish their Paragon, as they no longer rely on it, on their normal mass production. Since the Paragon can produce up to 10,000 mass income, it will scale with the consumption of the person who built it to prevent too much mass wasted. However, effectively you can always just calculate with the max amount it can produce at 10k. Even if it doesn't do so. For all intents and purposes, a Paragon produces 10k mass per second. Which is enough to do a lot of things in this game, and also to use a lot of build power. Bunch of salvations queued up. So what I expected with the game ender, let's see, is there any game ender shenanigans going up in the Northern team? There is a Maver halfway done for X, the big UEF cannon. That, as soon as that will extend, that is going to put in a lot of fire over the general staff of Nick. Primarily Nick because, well, I completely missed it, but Nemia did actually die. And there are a bunch of monkeys here, so those might have been the thing that killed them. There's a big explosion here, so I guess they died right here. Right here. Let's do that. Let's mark that down. Maybe, I think I remember what happened from checking the replay earlier. I'm pretty sure those monkeys just walked through the water and killed it with the torpedoes they have. Which aren't too amazing, but good enough to play an ACU. And definitely better than the torpedoes on a Fat Boy. An experience I made very painfully. But let's not go into that. Because that's embarrassing. Whole bunch of stars now building up for Nick, and a whole bunch of assist onto the shield gen. What happens if you assist a shield gen is basically that the shield bar of that shield generator will just be regened with the build cost of rebuilding a new shield for that amount of health from those engineers supporting that. And the more engineers that you have on that, the faster that regen will of course be. But that does allow you to easily defend against something like a Novax. Because as you can see, the shield is basically completely unfazed by the one Novax. Bunch of stars are now coming out. There is the monkey lords to continue pushing down. And they have some stuff in their path. They might get close to the Paragon. Though, well, okay, one of the monkeys is about to go down. It moved in a way that distracted the South a bit. And by the looks of it, Cynical is going for the really smart move of just always when one monkey gets targeted down, pulling that away from the other one, meaning that the SARs have a longer movement way or movement path once they finish killing that monkey, because that way they have to move from like up here to down here, which isn't too much, but it's a few seconds. And I guess the assumption is, as soon as the monkey is targeted down, it is effectively dead and will never reach the Paragon. But all monkeys do end up going down, and the Paragon does continue to be safe. Did I just see artillery shell flying? I might have, because the Maver did finish. Surprisingly fast. The big UEF cannon. Which does... well, it no longer one-hits shields, but it is somewhat accurate, and it does deal a lot of damage to shield, and it almost one-hits T3 shields. A star for Nick now just being moved overhead the Paragon because this shield did actually fail and even die. Just to defend against the Maver and the Novex, I guess. Prevent the Paragon from dying. Though Nick needs to be careful since that Star has already taken quite a bit of damage. And just took another Maver Shell, meaning that it's down into the red. And if that drops, that will most likely also drop that shield. And I think it just took another Maver Shell, and I was completely correct, it does drop the shield. Meaning that there's only this shield that Paragon is only protected by this shield generator. God, I really can't talk today, I'm so sorry about that. But Novaxes can now target down the Paragon, and there it goes. Kaboom. Big white explosion. One salvation did actually finish for Nick. Another one almost finished. But not looking too great. Never mind, two salvations actually finished for Nick. And second Paragon started. Right here in the corner, though, honestly, with this, I don't think that will finish. Big problem with the Paragon is if your opponent goes for their game aimer simultaneously, the Paragon cannot fire back. So, if your opponent, that will allow your opponent to build a proper game ender that can actually fire back first, meaning that your Paragon will be in big trouble, and if you and it will make it harder for you to actually build a proper game ender yourself, as you are under fire from another game ender. But Paragon does go down, and with that, Northern Navy is completely lost for a while now. Southern Navy is still just a slow and steady collapse for the bottom team. Now, some harms being placed down in desperate defensive measure, but not too effective. Nightshade does die. I think they may have tried to tally in and take out the ACU of Nick. Nick very heavily damaged, so that is probably exactly what happened there. Wait, no, Nightshade was on the team of Nick. Since there are Maver Shells hitting this area, what I suspect actually happened was that they died to the splash damage or death explosion of one of the P-gens. And just, yeah, perished to that. Very unfortunate, but with that, it's only Nick against the entire Northern team in a 1v4, with North Navy completely lost and the land invasion started. Bottom Navy, well, also completely lost, but not completely naval, but still with naval factories, so it's still a very recent naval loss. By the looks of it, Air also completely lost. A game ender currently firing onto their stuff, or onto his stuff. And yeah, it's not looking too great. Also, all shields offline, so he is power-stalling super heavily. Interestingly enough though, all mass fabricators are active. They should technically all turn off because Nick can't afford to use them. The other problem with that is that he is not able to actually fire the salvation because you can't fire it while power stalling too heavily. Power stalling slows that down. And he also can't use his heavy shield generator on the ACU. But all naval factories in the south did now end up dying. He's pulling back the Zerkus that were down there, basically building harms, I guess. Harms also all dead, so that's that. We are back up to +0, so maybe let's try speeding things up, and +0 is the maximum my PC can handle right now, so I guess we're not speeding anything up. But attempt of second Paragon has been noticed. Maver has targeted onto that, and Novax is also on the case. So there goes that, there goes the shield generator, the Paragon is also dead, as is the salvation, and with that, Nick is all alone. Just under a T2 shield with that heavy shield ACU. and a bunch of engineers in the area, which are all just assisting that she generator to stay alive against Novax. In a very, very desperate last attempt to survive, but I think we all know how this is going. If you look at economies, Team 2, or in this case just Nick, are down to 580 compared to 3.6k from the entire Northern team. However, still able to well, okay, not completely, but nearly out-regen that those Novaxes. However, problem being, Maver is capable of just one-hitting that T2 shield, and there goes Nick to Maver and Novax fire. Right, I hope you enjoyed this game. If you did so, leave a like, or don't, can't force you to do anything. But yeah, there will be more casts like these coming out, so if you want to be notified when those do actually arrive, you can always subscribe. This was cast live on Twitch if you want to check that out. Link to that will be down in the description as per always, and yeah, with that, hope to see you again in a future cast, and till then, bye!